Right before I walked down the aisle, my phone buzzed. I won't attend. You're a disgrace to this family. It was from my father. My chest tightened, fingers trembling over my bouquet. I'd faced hostile combat zones without blinking, but this was the moment that broke me. I was wearing my army uniform, my ribbons, my silver oak leaves. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd show up anyway. He didn't, but someone else did something that changed everything. And by the time the wedding ended, my father had called me 61 times. The organist had just hit the first note. I was standing in the church vestibule, bouquet in hand, my army dress blues, perfectly pressed silver oak leaves gleaming under soft light from the stained glass windows. I should have felt proud, grounded, but instead my stomach turned cold. Then my phone buzzed, one last time before I turned it off. I glanced down. I won't attend. You're a disgrace to this family. My breath caught. My chest tightened. For a moment, everything around me went quiet like the air itself had frozen. The words stared back at me, black pixels on white screen. I read it again and again, same message, same cut. I shouldn't have been surprised. He hadn't RSVP'd, hadn't called, but some stupid, stubborn part of me believed that when he saw me standing tall in the uniform, he always hated maybe he'd soften, just enough to sit in the back pew, maybe even nod. But no, just that text. And suddenly, I wasn't a decorated officer or a confident bride. I was just a daughter again, a disappointed one. I stood there, stuck between the life I'd earned and the man who couldn't stomach it. Behind the doors, the music swelled. The guests were rising to their feet. I didn't move. Aaron, I said barely above a whisper. He was only a few feet away fixing his cufflinks in front of an antique mirror. He turned the moment he heard my voice. His face changed instantly. He crossed the room and gently took my free hand. I couldn't find words, so I just handed him the phone. He read the message, jaw tightening just for a second, then exhaled slowly and handed it back. Then he kissed my forehead and said 5 words I didn't expect. Give it 2 hours, trust me. I blinked. What Aaron gave that small, quiet smile, the one he wore when he was already 10 steps ahead of everyone. He pulled out his phone, tapped once, and made a call. His voice was low, calm. I didn't catch a word. Then he hung up, slipped the phone back into his jacket, and looked at me. Don't give your father another inch of this day. You deserve the whole thing. I swallowed hard. Then I nodded. The doors opened, and I stepped forward not just into a sanctuary filled with family and friends, but into a moment that would change more than just my name. The chapel fell silent the second I walked in. Not because of what I wore people already knew, but because of the way I walked. Straight-backed, steady. Every step forward felt like a refusal to shrink. I wasn't wearing white, I was wearing my Army service uniform. 4 ribbons across my chest, my unit insignia, silver oak leaves on each shoulder strap, Lieutenant Colonel. It wasn't a protest, it wasn't even a message. It was me. I had earned every thread of this uniform. I had bled for it, led for it, and Aaron, he loved me in it. He'd been the one to ask gently, would you consider wearing it? Not because it made a statement, but because in his words, you fought too hard to hide who you are. Still, I thought about the things my father used to say. It's a costume, he once muttered, something women wear when they don't know how to be women. I used to flinch when I remembered that. Not today. I reached Aaron at the altar. He looked at me like no one else ever had, not like a soldier or a disappointment or someone he had to fix. Just Claire. The ceremony began. It was simple, sacred. I didn't cry. Not until halfway through our vows when Aaron reached up and brushed the back of my hand. His thumb grazed the callus near my trigger finger, the one no one ever noticed, but he did. It undid me. After we kissed, the guests erupted into cheers. The music swelled again, and I somehow felt whole, even without my father there. We made it through the photos, through the champagne toast, through the first round of dancing. I started to let go. And then Emily, my maid of honor, ran up to me, wide-eyed, gripping my phone. Claire, your phone's been going crazy. I looked down. 1 missed calls, all from one number. Dad. My throat dried instantly. My fingers tightened around the glass in my hand. I showed the screen to Aaron. He raised an eyebrow. Then that same ironic half-smile returned to his lips. 2 hours, he whispered. And suddenly, I realized. Something had changed. Something had forced my father's hand, and I had no idea what. Not yet. After the last toast, I slipped away. The bridal suite was quiet, too quiet. The laughter from the reception faded behind thick walls. I sat on the tufted bench dress uniform, still buttoned to the collar bouquet, beside me like an afterthought. I unlocked my phone. 61 missed calls, all from one number. I hesitated, then tapped into voicemail. Claire, call me when you get this. I overreacted. We should talk. Claire, please, something's happened. I didn't know, just call me. Each message came with a new crack in his voice. But what didn't make sense was why. He knew what today was, and he still sent that message, cold, final. He hadn't RSVP'd, hadn't spoken to me in nearly a year, had barely acknowledged Aaron at that awkward lunch we all pretended wasn't a disaster. So what changed? There was a knock. Aaron! He stepped inside, loosened tie hair, slightly tousled, but calm as ever. Any word from the press? He asked casually. I blinked. The what? He sat beside me, pulled out his phone. Might want to check your news alerts. My hands were shaking slightly as I opened the browser and typed my own name. And then I saw it. Front page, the Washington Chronicle, Lieutenant Colonel Claire Bennett, the hero no one saw coming. A full-length feature, photo of me saluting next to my squad in Kandahar, the Bronze Star ceremony, details of the 14 personnel I coordinated to rescue under fire. Even mention of the quiet Presidential Medal of Freedom nomination I thought was still months away. I stared at it. I thought this was supposed to drop next month, I whispered. Aaron nodded. It was, until I made a call. I turned to him slowly. You leaked it? I expedited the truth. His tone was so calm it made my heart race. Your father wanted to make today about shame, he said. So I figured the world should know who you really are. I didn't speak, just leaned into him, forehead against his shoulder. Then he added almost too casually, I may have CC'd a few friends at the Atlantic and maybe the governor's office. I laughed, a shaky, disbelieving kind of laugh. You started a media war on our wedding day. He smiled. No, I just leveled the battlefield, and just like that, it all made sense. Those calls, the desperation, he saw it. He saw the headlines. He saw me. But he didn't see me first, and that still stung. The next morning was overcast. Light rain misted against the windows of the cafe down the block from our venue. I picked the table near the window, ordered tea, sat alone. My uniform jacket was neatly folded over the chair beside me. I didn't want him to think this was some stage. I wore a navy sweater and slacks, civilian but not small. When he walked in, I barely recognized him, still tall, still crisp in a gray suit. But his steps weren't confident, they were hesitant. He spotted me, paused, then walked over without a word. He sat down, cleared his throat. Claire, I raised a hand. Before you say anything, you need to hear me first. He froze. I took a breath. What you said yesterday, what you've said for years, has hurt me. Not because I needed your permission to live my life, but because I still wanted your respect. His eyes dropped. His hands clenched together on the table. You didn't just miss a wedding, I continued. You missed a lifetime of becoming. His voice cracked. I thought I was protecting you. I thought the army would harden you, break you. It didn't, I said quietly. It made me. He looked up then, and for the first time, I saw something unguarded in his face. Not pride, not stubbornness, just regret. I saw the article, he said, voice rough. The photos, the citations. I read the words from your commanders. I didn't know, no, you didn't want to know. I wasn't angry, not anymore, just tired. I sent you pictures, letters, awards. You never responded. And when you did, it was with silence or sarcasm. He nodded, slowly. So why now, I asked. Why suddenly 61 phone calls? He let out a breath. Because yesterday, for the first time, I realized the loss wasn't yours. It was mine. A long silence stretched between us. He didn't try to explain further, didn't make excuses. I'm not here to absolve you, I said. I'm not interested in pretending this never happened. He nodded again. Fair. If you want to be part of my life now, it'll be on my terms. Respect first, apology second. And you don't get to skip either. His eyes glistened. No tears, just water gathering that never fell. I'm sorry. 2 words. I felt them land, not like a fix, but like a shift. You can come to the brunch, I said, finally, but no speeches, no attention, just be quiet. Stay in the back. Of course, he said. He didn't smile. He didn't thank me, and that strangely was what made me believe him. The brunch was quiet, no fanfare, just coffee, cinnamon rolls, scrambled eggs, and the soft chatter of those who loved us. He showed up 15 minutes late, alone, no entourage, no posturing, just him, navy suit, a small gift box in hand. He didn't walk straight to me. Instead, he handed the box to Aaron, a symbolic gesture maybe, like he understood he had to go through someone else now, not straight to me. He sat in the back, spoke to no one, sipped coffee slowly. I didn't acknowledge him at first, not because I was punishing him, but because I needed to remember that I didn't orbit around his presence anymore. It was Aaron who whispered to me as we got ready for the toast. He's not waiting for redemption, he's just watching. I glanced back. Our eyes met. He nodded. I nodded back. No smile, no forgiveness, just acknowledgement. And somehow that was enough for now. The following week was a blur. Emails, interviews, messages from commanders I hadn't spoken to in years, offers from advocacy groups, speaking invitations, a quiet call from someone inside the White House. The Medal of Freedom nomination has gained bipartisan support, the woman said. The president has been briefed. I couldn't breathe for a moment. Not because of the honor, though, that was enormous, but because for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything anymore, not to him, not even to the world. I'd already done the work. The world was just catching up, but the world was also watching him. A small town paper, the Jefferson Weekly, ran a headline 3 days after the wedding. Veteran hero snubbed by prominent retired judge on wedding day. They didn't name him. They didn't need to. In our town, Judge Bennett was legacy, respect, authority, now whispers, raised eyebrows, a quiet unraveling, and I hadn't said a word. I didn't post, didn't share the article, didn't comment on any threads, but Aaron, he'd done something smarter. He'd made sure the world saw the truth without me needing to lift a finger. I didn't do it to shame him, Aaron told me one night. I did it to make the shame irrelevant. And honestly, when that was the difference. This wasn't revenge, it was clarity. The next time my father called, it wasn't to plead or explain. It was just this, I'd like to come to one of your events someday, not to speak, just to listen. I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. I just replied, that depends on whether you're ready to really see me. And then I put the phone down, not angry, not bitter, just free. 2 months after the wedding, I officially transitioned out of active duty. I traded combat boots for meetings, convoy maps for policy whiteboards. My new title sounded bureaucratic, senior advisor for veteran reintegration strategy, but what it really meant was this: I got to fix what had once failed me. I reviewed complaint cases from veterans, systems that buried people in paperwork, algorithms that mislabeled trauma as disciplinary history, timelines so long soldiers gave up before benefits arrived. So I redesigned it, a digital portal, built-in escalation flags, cross-agency coordination triggers, a system that couldn't lose you in the shuffle, 6 months in approval delays, drop 40 print backlogs cleared. I didn't post about it, I just got it done. And then came the email. Subject Defense Women's Leadership Summit, keynote invitation. I almost deleted it. Not because I wasn't honored, but because I didn't know what I'd say. What could I possibly offer that hadn't already been shouted louder by others? But then I reread the email. We want you, Claire, the woman who wore her uniform to her wedding, the one who didn't wait for permission to be proud. I sat back, and finally I understood. They weren't asking for a soldier. They were asking for a mirror, for someone to speak what others were too tired or too scared to say out loud. So I said yes. The room was packed. Hundreds of women officers, analysts, medics, engineers stared up at me. I stepped behind the podium, straightened my jacket, and began. I didn't join the Army to make a statement. I joined because I believed in service. I believed in showing up. But along the way, I learned something bigger. Family isn't who shares your name, it's who shows up when it counts. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned and earned again, every single day. And sometimes it's the hardest oath you'll ever take is the one to respect yourself when the people who raised you don't. The room went still. Then applause loud, relentless, not polite, not automatic, but earned. And in that moment, I felt it. Not validation from my father, not even from the crowd, but from the woman standing at the mic. Me. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Cream envelope, neat handwriting I knew too well, no return address. I opened it with steady hands. Dear Claire, I spent a lifetime thinking that leadership meant being right, but watching your story unfold taught me something else. True leadership begins where pride ends. I've stepped down from my last 2 board appointments. I've started volunteering quietly at the VA center. I'm not asking for reconciliation. That's your right. But please know, I see you now, fully, and with the deepest respect. Dad, no demands, no justification, just his words. And for once, they were enough. The White House ceremony took place on a crisp fall afternoon. The East Room glowed under golden chandeliers. Journalists, cabinet members, decorated honorees. It felt surreal. I was seated between a Nobel laureate and a retired ambassador. My dress uniform was spotless, boots polished to mirror shine. I could feel the weight of the metal ribbon around my collarbone before it even touched me. When they called my name, I rose not with pride, but with purpose. I stepped forward steady, every breath rooted in years of discipline and quiet defiance. The president shook my hand, leaned in, and said softly, "The country thanks you, Colonel." Applause swelled. But what echoed in my head were quieter things. The sting of silence at my cousin's wedding, the calluses on my hands from field work, the shaking voice of my dad whispering I was wrong. And then I saw him, back row, standing still, hands folded. He wasn't part of the press. He didn't try to be seen. No cameras caught him. He stood there alone in a charcoal suit, eyes glassy. After the ceremony, I stepped out into a side hallway lined with marble and history. He was there just outside the frame, not approaching, not intruding, just waiting. I stopped a few feet away. He looked up, voice rough. "Claire, you weren't on the guest list," I said quietly. "I didn't come to be seen. I just wanted to witness you being honored, the way you always should have been." I nodded. "You did," he hesitated. "Then I know I can't fix what I broke, but watching you up there, it broke something in me too, something that needed breaking." I studied him not as a daughter seeking something, but as a woman deciding what she was willing to carry forward. "You didn't just miss the wedding," I said. "You missed everything that led to it." He nodded. "I know." I paused. "Then I believe people can change. If they want." "I do," he said. "Then start by listening." "I will." We didn't hug. There was no dramatic reconciliation, but as we walked side by side through the hallway, I felt something shift. That spring, I launched a nonprofit called Second Oath. We mentored female veterans transition into civilian life, paired them with legal support, mental health services, career paths, dignity. One morning while packing for a conference, I got a message from him. Just finished my first mentorship session at the VA, teaching young men how to advocate for themselves in legal hearings. It's humbling. Thank you for showing me how to serve. I stared at the screen a long time, showed it to Aaron. He smiled. "That's not the same man who texted you on our wedding day." I nodded, and I'm not the same woman. That night, standing on another stage, I ended my talk with, "This revenge is easy. Redemption is a choice. Sometimes the person you're saving isn't them, it's you." Some people think closure comes with an apology, but what I've learned is that real closure comes when you stop needing one. My father never became the man I wished he'd been, but he's becoming something else, something honest. And I've become something too. Not despite his silence, but because of it. I no longer need a front row seat from him. I've built my own damn stage. And maybe if you've been told you're a disgrace, if someone you love chose shame over support, you know what that feels like. To ache for acknowledgement, to hope one text will finally say, "I see you." But if no one else has told you yet, let me say it first. You are not their silence. You are what you've survived. You are what you're building next. So now I'll ask you, what would you do if your father called you a disgrace, then begged to be let back in? Would you forgive him or walk away? Let me know in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, share it. Someone else might need to hear it too. We're just getting started, and this time the spotlight's yours.